Hi, my name is Tara Kachaturoff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today, I have as my special guest, Aaron Schillinger, who is the director of Boblo Boats, a Detroit fairy tale. Welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today about the film that you made that's all about Boblo Island, Boblo Boats. But before we do that, why don't you tell me a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, so I never got to go to Boblo Island because I'm originally from the East Coast. So I was born in Southern Virginia, just south of Richmond. And I decided to go to film school in New York City at NYU for my last 2 years of formal education, and just ended up sticking around the city unexpectedly for 15 years. And it was when I was doing videos for a nonprofit company called the SS Columbia Project that I first heard about these legendary steamboats that used to take people to an island amusement park in the Detroit River. And throughout the 7 years of making the movie, I ended up falling in love with Detroit and the state of Michigan. And so now I live in Ferndale.
That's amazing. So what was it about filmmaking? What drew you to that, to study that in college?
Yeah, so I was going to the College of William and Mary in Virginia for my first 2 years. And then I had kind of a really unique experience with a filmmaker friend of mine where we made a movie without cameras. It's kind of hard to, there's no short version of the story, so we don't have time to go into it. But essentially, it was a movie for one person. And so there's no evidence left over of it, but it was a really unique artistic experiment that we did. And that kind of convinced me that maybe I should actually make a movie with a camera. And so that's why I ended up going to film school with my friend at NYU.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. That's great. Oh my gosh. And just seeing something prompted you to come out here to Michigan to, create this film, which is unique. This is so exciting. So tell us a little bit about how the project how you even came up with the project, hey, I want to make a film about this, because there's a million things you can make films about. And did you get the idea while you're still in New York and then came out here to explore more, or how did it all work?
Yeah, so I was doing videos for nonprofit companies when I was in New York. And like I mentioned, the SS Columbia Project needed some fundraising videos. They wanted to restore an old steamboat. That's all I knew. It was an old steamboat. So I went out to film Columbia in 2015.
And that's one of the Boblo boats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because there were two. About Boblo.
Okay, yeah. So you didn't go to Boblo,
Right.
So you don't know. There were two boats that used to have to ride to get to the island amusement park.
So there's no way to get there from a highway bridge or anything like that?
You could also, this is for nowadays and back in the day, drive over the Ambassador Bridge and take a smaller ferry boat to get to the island.
Okay.
But there is no bridge to Boblo Island or Bois Blanc, as it's officially known on Google Maps.
Oh. Did not know that.
Yeah, but I didn't know any of this either in 2015. And so I went out to film Columbia, the Boblo, the older of the two Boblo boats, when she was in dry dock in Toledo. And my first thought when I saw this boat was, why don't you guys just get a new one or build a new one, because it has to be cheaper than what you're trying to do here. Because Columbia, she was built in 1902, and in 2015, she had rotted decks, there was rusted hulls. She was really falling apart. And so when I said that, they were like, no, you don't understand. You can't just build a new boat like this, because they don't build boats like this anymore. And at the time, I wasn't really a boat person. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that's important. She's the oldest surviving steamboat of her kind in America. That's important. But the thing that really hooked me on making a documentary is they were like, well, there's a woman who can talk to the boat, right? I was like, no. I was like, I'd love to meet her, though. So they introduced me to Gloria Davis, a woman who has a psychic connection with Columbia. She can speak to the boat, and she can hear the boat talk back to her. And it was really when I first met her that I understood the significance of these boats, because I'd never met anyone who had that type of relationship with an inanimate object. And it really made me feel like there's a story here. So that was in 2015. And she introduced me to the people who were trying to save both of the boats, because they're actually sister steamboats.
I see.
And that the boats had two different distinct personalities. And there's kind of these ragtag groups of people who were fighting to save these boats. And the story just kind of took off from there.
And you've created the story, I think you were telling me, from the viewpoint of the boat. So you're telling the story from the boat's perspective?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's very unique.
yeah,
That's
I wrote the
interesting.
narration from the perspective of Columbia herself.
Oh, wow.
And Martha Reeves is the narrator of the movie. And so we have this, I wanted to make it like a magical fairy tale because people who went to Boblo knew that it was a magical childhood experience that you had, you know, or even going as an adult. Sometimes you would fall in love with somebody that you met on one of the moonlight cruises, or you know, on the dance floor in the dance hall on Boblo Island. It was a really magical experience. So I wanted to bring that to the movie. And so telling the story from the perspective of the boat and narrating it, and having Martha Reeves narrate the film, that was my way of trying to make it, you know, a magical story.
And that's Martha Reeves of the Vandellas.
Yes.
So that's Heat Wave and Dancing in the Streets. Those are big hits of her and her group. So it's pretty exciting to have her as a narrator. You know, it's funny, I posted about this a little bit back on Facebook, and people came out of the woodwork saying, I remember growing up with Boblo. One of them was even from Canada. It's just, we used to, from the Canada side, like these are major memories for these people. It's just been interesting to see how much this has played a role in other people's lives. And you know, I want to jump into some of the pictures and start going. We have like 15 stills that we have from the movie, and we'd love to go through those with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's like jump into the first picture we have here.
Sure.
So we'll spend about a minute or so on each one. Why don't you explain a little bit? This is just explain like what this is created from. This is like what did you call it? Stop animation.
Yeah.
The
So
film
this
has
is one of the stills from the movie,
Okay.
and we created it using stop motion animation.
Stop motion
Many
animation.
people would think of claymation, which is
Yeah.
a type of stop motion animation. The artist that I worked with, Beck Sloan, uses recycled fabrics and cardboard and a whole lot of glue to make her
A
sets.
lot of glue. This is
And
gorgeous. So
the
these are the
boats-
two boats, right?
Yeah, as you can see, it's kind of a magical aesthetic that we're using here. The boats many people who rode the boats knew that they would start the season with a race in the Detroit River. So here we're
race.
kind of capturing the spirit of the two boats racing in kind of this fantasy land here.
I love that. You know, I saw one of these in an actual film clip pulling out of the dock. That thing can haul. I mean, that thing just moved so fast, I was shocked. Like,
Yeah.
This thing is very agile for a giant ship, a giant boat.
Yeah, they used
I
to
was
fit
just, wow.
2,500 people
Oh
on
my
these boats, each
gosh.
of these boats at a time.
I just couldn't believe how fast that thing moved. I was like, wow. All right, I love this. It's beautiful. And here's another picture. And what size is this model, if you can recall from the film?
Yeah.
What size is
so
that model?
this boat is a different model than using the other one. This is about 5 feet long.
5
It's
feet?
currently on display at the Mariner Theater in Marine City. They have a Boblo exhibit there
That's beautiful.
up till October 12th.
All that detail, you know?
Yeah, and I still have the moon behind it. You know, this is supposed to invoke memories of the moonlight cruises that people used to go on. So, you know, these boats were working overtime. You know, not only did they shuttle people to and from the island, but they also did riverboat cruises at night.
That is so beautiful. And did Beck Sloan, like did she actually do all this artwork herself?
Yeah, she built these boats by
And
hand.
are those real lights on it? They look real.
Yeah, they're like fairy lights.
Oh my gosh, that is a lot of work. That is a lot
Yeah.
of work. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
every shot that we took is usually only about 3 to 5 seconds, and each shot took about a day or sometimes 2 days to take, because you have to take 24 pictures to equal 1 second of film.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
24 pictures for 1 second. That's
Yeah.
amazing. All right, great photo. Now this is a real picture of Boblo. It looks amazing, this place. Looks
Yeah,
amazing.
it was a small amusement park, very different than if you go to somewhere like Disney or Cedar Point, which I feel like are mostly pavement these days. Boblo Island was a small amusement park where you could actually bring your own picnic lunches.
Oh,
You can bring food in. it was an affordable day of family fun, and the boats were really public transportation. So it was accessible to people of all different economic backgrounds. And I have many people tell me stories that their parents would just give them a few dollars and send them on their way to Boblo
Wow.
without adult supervision.
Oh my
So
gosh.
many people are nostalgic for an experience like this
Oh my
because
gosh.
it doesn't really exist nowadays, you know.
That is unbelievable. And who is this gentleman?
So-
He looks like he's having fun.
Yeah, Kevin is one of the main characters in the movie.
Uh-huh.
He's the general restoration manager of the St. Clair. And here we met him. He's showing us the ride in his backyard. He is also a Boblo Island fanatic. So he built a miniature Boblo in his basement that he calls the future Boblo.
Oh,
Because it's
wow.
actually bigger. It has more rides than Boblo would have if it were still around today. So that's why he calls it the future Boblo, if it had grown and multiplied.
Oh my gosh. And so he plays a role in the film.
Yeah,
He's one of the people that is interviewed.
Yeah, he's one of the people who were fighting to save the St. Clair from the scrapyard. And he also has a very deep emotional connection to the island. When I was first interviewing him, he kind of casually mentioned that he doesn't go to the island anymore and that he refuses to go to the island. And I was like, really? You love Boblo? You don't want to go there? And that's when I knew that he had a larger story to tell about people who have, you know, kind of deep-seated emotional, like, I don't want to say issues, but like attachments to things. And when you love something that much, you can't bear to lose it. And you almost become kind of stuck in the past. So through the film, we watch him deal with his emotional attachments to Boblo.
Oh, wow. That's neat. He looks very happy.
Yeah.
Great picture. All right. And this is the psychic.
This is Gloria Davis, who I mentioned before.
Gloria Davis.
In this scene, she's actually doing a tarot card reading for St. Clair because we wanted to know, you know, St. Clair's fate kind of hangs in the balance throughout the course of the movie.
This isn't the one that burned, is it?
It is the boat
Oh,
that burned.
St. Clair
yeah.
is the one that burned.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Were
so,
you there when she was doing the reading?
yeah, because we filmed it.
Oh, you filmed the whole reading? Oh, the reading is in the film.
It's one of the scenes
Oh,
in the movie.
wow.
So this is a
Okay.
still from the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So she was able to
Wow.
predict that somebody would come on board to help alter the fate of the boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is before somebody did, correct?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Whether you believe that she can actually speak to the boat or not doesn't really matter because the important thing
She
is
was right.
she's an advocate for the
Wow.
boat.
That's
you know,
amazing.
She told me she would hope that anybody would do everything they can to help preserve these boats, and that really stuck with me. So that's one of the things that I try to do is to advocate.
Was she also, did she spend some of her childhood there too as well?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. All right. And is this Sarah E. Ray?
This is Sarah Elizabeth Ray.
Sarah Elizabeth Ray.
When I started making the
Yeah.
movie in 2015, nobody knew who Sarah Elizabeth Ray was really, except for maybe some academics and historians. Now Sarah Elizabeth Ray has her Wikipedia page, and that's because of the efforts of the Boblo Boats documentary and the Sarah E. Ray Project that I'm a co-founder of in order to raise awareness of her. So in 1945, Sarah Elizabeth Ray forced the integration of Boblo. She got kicked off the boat because of the color of her skin, because they didn't allow African Americans to ride the boat except for once a week, maybe on a Monday. And she threw her 85-cent fare at the boat and went to the NAACP and reported what happened. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where Thurgood Marshall actually argued the case and won, and the Boblo Excursion Company was forced to integrate. Now, when I was making the movie, I didn't actually have this picture, so we had to recreate this scene using stop motion animation, and so that's about a 4 to 5 minute segment. So I think the next picture is actually a still from the stop motion animation. And I brought in the doll.
Yeah, this is the doll.
Yeah, the
So
doll
this-
here.
This is all made out of materials, and yeah, it's unbelievable. And we'll hold that up again at the end. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, and this picture was taken in the early 2000s when both of the boats were docked.
So the
in
fire
River
was
Rouge.
after 2000?
Yeah, the fire was in 2018.
Oh, 2018,
So,
okay.
but yeah, for decades, the boats both sat next to each other in the Detroit River. And it's kind of spooky to see them there. You kind of, one of the characters in the film says it's kind of a little bit like seeing Aunt Sadie in the hospital dying of cancer, because many
That's
people
sad.
feel these boats are alive, you know, and they were forgotten. But now that Detroit
It
is
is
having
sad.
its resurgence,
Yeah.
people are remembering these boats and trying to save them. So that's what the film's about.
Great picture, thank you. This is another of the, it's amazing all the work that's done to create these characters here.
Yeah, so
Oh
the
my gosh.
film is a mixture of stop motion animation, archival footage, and live
Interviews.
action, as we call it, where it's interviews, scenes that are unfolding as people are trying to restore the boats. So this is a still from the film of one of the Moonlight cruises.
That's amazing.
And this is a photo that was taken in the Detroit News on Boblo Island. You know, many people who haven't seen the film want to know, why did Boblo Island close down? And many people feel that it had to do with racial tensions on the island. And I don't really know what's going on in this photo, but you almost feel like it's being divided between white and black. And you see the boat there in the background. The real story of why Boblo Island closed down is told in the film, but it goes into how the island was sold for real estate development. But the real nail in the Boblo coffin has to do with the betrayal of business partners. So it's actually appropriate to talk about
wow.
it on Michigan Entrepreneur TV.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, so it's
Had no
also a
idea.
real story.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Is this where they used to catch the boat?
So this was taken about 2 weeks ago on board the St. Clair. So you've
Oh, it's on the
alluded to the
boat.
fire,
Oh,
right?
this is on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, all
so we
burned
got
out.
the press, we invited the press to come down and take a tour of the ship. So you can tell that the main characters that we're following have not given up working to save the St. Clair since the fire. And if you Google Boblo boat, you'll see the movie, but you also see pictures of the St. Clair and what she looks like now.
All right.
Again, a picture of the Boblo boat St. Clair nowadays, you know, since they've worked to restore her since the fire in 2018.
Wow. And
I guess I
that's
included this
you.
photo just for a little fun. We like to do a lot of Q&A events, so this is me being held in the loving arms of my producer, Steve Bannatyne, who has helped get us into 20 theaters across the Great Lakes region.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
we're playing in theaters now, and it's just a dream to be able to invite people to see the movie on the big screen together. You know.
That's fantastic.
And this is a picture of me. On my left is the narrator of the movie, Martha Reeves, and to her left is Jamon Jordan, the city historian.
Oop.
And on the other side is Courtney Thompson, who's actually the great-grandnephew of Sarah Elizabeth Ray.
Oh, wow.
And we
Okay.
had them out to do an event at the Royal Oak opening of the film at Imagine Theaters.
Oh, wow, how cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's neat. Okay, so thanks for sharing some of those pictures. That was fantastic. And I also want to show, this is like a movie poster.
Yeah, mini poster.
A mini poster. A mini poster of the movie, Boblo Boats, A Detroit Fairy Tale, Ferry. So cute. Love the title.
Yeah, we couldn't help ourselves. Had to do a
I
pun.
think it's fantastic. So thanks for sharing those amazing photos. And could you show up the doll or I don't know if they call it a puppet or a doll, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That is so cute. And can you tell me what it's made out of different types of material, and it's, you were moving some of these things, so you would pose it, take a bunch of shots, do another, move one thing, take 24 more pictures, right? That's how
Yeah, so the
you did
artist
it?
Beck Sloan made
Okay.
the Sarah Elizabeth Ray doll or puppet out of recycled fabric.
This is just beautiful.
So this is, I believe her
hair
hair
is
is
just-
made of tights, and
yeah.
the shirt and skirt are made out of other clothes. And
Lace, it's
under
very
there is a
pretty.
wire armature that's, you can pose in lots of different positions. So yeah, we had
Lots
to take.
of work. To
Yeah,
do
it was
this.
lots of work.
And the shoes
To
are
film
so
the Sarah
cute.
Elizabeth-
Even like shoelaces. This is done in such detail.
Yeah.
This is beautiful.
To film the Sarah Elizabeth Ray segment itself, which is about 4.5 minutes, took over a month in the studio. So
A
that's not
month?
including like the Moonlight Cruise scene, and
A
some of the
month
others.
to do 4 to 5 minutes. Wow.
Yeah,
It's a tremendous amount of work.
but it's all worth it because people
It
can
is-
now see the movie.
I know, I know. And on the site that you have for this, which is bobloboatsfilm.com, there's a great clip, and you can kind of get a sense. So there's 3 people that are essentially involved in this. There's the doctor, the psychic, and the fanatic. Can you talk a little bit about the doctor and his role? Because I don't think we had a picture of him. But what's
Yeah.
the role of the doctor who's trying to help save this?
So Dr. Ron Coutu is the primary owner. He's the majority owner of the St. Clair. He bought her in the early 2000s and has faced a lot of difficulties restoring her, including some health battles that we go into in the film. And he really wants, he's one of the most stubborn people I've ever met. And I say that as a good thing because I don't believe he'll ever give up. And if you look at the progress that he's made restoring the ship with the restoration manager, Steve Farash, who's in the movie, it's kind of incredible to see how far they've come since the fire in 2018.
That's great. I mean, and then you've got the psychic. What was her name again?
Yeah, Gloria Davis.
Gloria Davis.
Is the psychic and numerologist who really does have such a personal relationship with
That is
Columbia.
so fascinating.
Yeah,
That's so
she
fascinating.
was not able to talk with the younger sister, St. Clair. And St. Clair has some kind of turbulent legends in her past. Many people feel like she's haunted. And so Gloria was a little reluctant to communicate with St. Clair. It's almost like a tale of two different sisters here. Columbia is the stately older sister, and the St. Clair is kind of the younger party girl who got into trouble along the way.
Do boats always have female personas?
You always refer to boats as females.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
except in French, when they're male, you refer to them as men.
Oh,
But that just has to do with
that's interesting.
gender. Yeah, but
Oh,
boats are always people, which is kind of interesting
that's
because there's not
fascinating, too.
many objects that you refer to as people. And so that kind of drew me in as somebody who wasn't a
That's
boat person.
fascinating.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, boats are
that's
people
interesting.
too.
Oh my gosh. And then the fanatic, his name again was?
Yeah, so we call him a Boblo Island fanatic.
Boblo Island.
Kevin Mayer. He's one of the main characters in the film because he's the general manager of the restoration. So not only does he have a
So
miniature...
he's working with the doctor.
Yeah.
So
Not only does
closely.
he have a miniature amusement park in his basement, but he's Dr. Coutu's right-hand man in the
Yeah.
restoration.
Have you seen that future Boblo model that he has?
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular
big? Is it pretty big?
model. Oh yeah, I mean it would fit in your studio, but just barely. I think it's in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Oh, wow. Fascinating. I love how you have all these different things going on. You've got the stop animation characters, which, hand-built everything. I love that you have 3, vignettes of people who are fighting to save this boat and involved in a very different and emotional way. You've got pictures. I mean, you've got, Martha Reeves, narrating. I mean, this is amazing all in one film. I mean, that's a lot of work. You can see why it took so long to
We also had
do.
to do a lot of research.
Right.
Because a lot of people who went to
You need
Boblo
context.
did not know about the history of segregation and desegregation.
I didn't know about it. I was
Yeah.
and I saw some of the interviews in there where, on the clip, and people are saying, I didn't know this about her. I had
Yeah.
no idea about Sarah Elizabeth Ray and her role.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is absolutely fascinating. So as in your role as a director of this piece, how has it changed you as a person and as a filmmaker?
When I first started filming in 2015, we spent 3 months filming in the summer. We got about, I think, 100 hours of footage. And I was like, great, we got it in the can. This movie's going to be out next year.
That's 2015.
That was 2015. Little did I know it takes 7 years. And it was a long road. You know, I started making the movie in my early 30s. So I've evolved as a person, and I've learned a lot about storytelling, you know. I edited the movie myself, but I worked with some amazing storytellers as consulting editors who helped make me a better storyteller. And then working with Martha Reeves, I felt like I got to work with, you know, to learn how to work with actors, right?
Yeah.
So I really learned that sometimes, you know, as a business person, which I guess I am, you got to learn to run a marathon and not a sprint, because you'll really burn yourself out if you do too much too soon. And that's what that first summer was like. I was like, oh my God, we got to like do street team events. We got to start marketing the movie now. I was like, I learned to kind of take it slow and take your time and pace yourself, because you never know how long it might take.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it really was 7 years of an adventure that, you know, is now, you know, memorializing this amazing history for people here in Detroit and all over. There's a lot of people who apparently have a lot of great memories there. And I've seen from my own thing, and I have no history of understanding this at all. And it was like the amount that you even told that you have on your site, the clip is amazing. These pictures are amazing. Thanks so much for sharing those with us. And I hope people get out there and find the picture around town and take a look at it and see what there is to offer there. So thanks so much for that. I have one last question for you as an entrepreneur yourself. What would be your advice to entrepreneurs as we wrap up here?
I think you really need to find your niche and embrace it. So our core audience for the movie are people in southeastern Michigan, right? But I knew that I wanted the film to reach a larger audience. But it's really, so what we wanted to do is embrace our core audience and build excitement and then spread out from there. So I think as a business person, it's almost helpful to think small about your people who are really passionate, and then you can expand later. But first you gotta reach your core audience.
All right, well said. Thank you so much, Aaron Schillinger, for sharing all these amazing pictures, history, and about your background as a director. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah, my pleasure.
If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at MichiganEntrepreneurTV.com. Please join me again in the future when we interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.